Today we're going to do a comprehensive video of the 2400 watt power inverter on a 250 series Land Cruiser. Let's get started. Hey guys, Eric Sargent, General Manager at Ed Martin Toyota in Noblesville, Indiana. So today we're going to kind of dig in and we're going to take a look and really understand what exactly this 2400 watt power inverter even mean. And ultimately 2400 watts is the same as a 20 amp circuit in your house. So at your house you probably have 3 or 4 or 5 outlets that are all wired to one fuse box in your breaker box. And so that's about how much power we're working with here. So any household outlet items, and I'll just mention a couple big ones like circular saws, hair dryers, heat guns, full-size home blenders. They all run between 1,000 and 1,500 watts, and we have 2,400 watts to work with here. So we're going to play around with a couple high voltage stuff. We're going to do them individually, we'll do them together, and we'll see if it can handle the load that we want to put on this. So, all right, so what I have here is my EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. This is not really, we're not using this to demonstrate the inverter for this particular Land Cruiser. The reason that I have it out here, one, it is a 2400 watt inverter. We have a 2400 watt inverter already in the car. But the cool thing that I'm going to use this for basically is I'm going to use this as a picometer. So I'm going to actually measure the watts that we're going to use. So what we're going to play with today is we're going to have a induction burner. This is a New Wave. This is a cool induction burner because it does let you do 600, 900, or 1,500 watts. It's a variable. Which could come in real handy during this little experiment. And then we have a Weber Lumen electric compact grill, which is 1,600 watts according to the spec sheet on the Weber's website. And then we also have my EcoFlow Glacier fridge, which is 180 watts when it's on AC. So those are the three things that we're going to kind of be playing with here. We already know that 1,600 watts is not going to be an issue, because it's rated at 2400 watts. So we know that we can run this electric grill, no problem. That's going to be fine. The question is it going to run fine when we throw in this induction cooktop simultaneously? If we're at a campsite cooking breakfast, we got eggs and bacon going over here, we're getting our tea or coffee over here. What kind of sandbox are we playing in with the amount of power that we have? And then we have the fridge also, which will typically be running. But that's a pretty low voltage all in all. One cool thing about this particular Glacier fridge is it does have a battery. So if you are worried about getting to the threshold and you don't want to maximize that extra 180 watts that we're going to be using, you could just unplug it from it, because it will run itself on its own little battery, and you can kind of take that out of the equation completely if you're worried about getting that close to the top of the 2400 watts total. So the EcoFlow is here so that we can measure the wattage. One cool thing about EcoFlow, whether it's their app or whether it's display on here, is that it's going to tell us how much wattage is pulling off of a particular load. The car, although it's doing the same thing, it doesn't have a little meter here that's saying, hey, you're pulling 1,600 watts off your grill. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that. I will ask Mr. Toyota, if you're watching the video, you have this beautiful Toyota app that you can restart your car, lock your car, and do all sorts of cool diagnostic stuff. Maybe we should add a little tab for your inverter so you can see exactly how much wattage you're pulling. So if you're at campsite, you can use that. Free suggestion. However, we are going to use this so that we can measure the wattage, and then we're going to go ahead and plug it in here. There is one big difference that I am going to mention between the inverter here and here, although they're both 2400 watts. On the EcoFlow, this is a pure sine inverter. What that means is that the sine wave of the actual resistance from the 1 to -1 ohm ratio, as it looks graphically, is going to be fully smooth, and that's what you want when you have delicate electronics such as camera gear or drones or maybe an iPad, laptop computer, and so on and so forth. The car, it doesn't say anywhere in the literature whether it's pure sine or whether it's not pure sine. Maybe it's more of a sloppy amount of power that's coming through. I'm sure there's a technical name for that, and you can put that in the comment section below if you know that. But ultimately, this is probably more cleaner power, but for using a grill or a blender or an induction cooktop, this is going to be perfectly fine. I know that for sure. But again, we're going to use this today so we can measure the wattage, then we'll unplug it, and we'll plug it in the car inverter, and then hopefully we can kind of compare the two and see what kind of load this thing will actually pull. So this is really just our expensive little picometer for the day. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to look at the, we're going to use this little induction burner. This is made by New Wave. This is on Amazon. It's about $100. I use this when I camp for pour over coffee, just to boiling up water for anything that you need to boil water with. So this is the only thing plugged into it. I do have an extension cord plugged into it. It does say in the Toyota, does say in the owner's manual that you should not use an extension cord, and I'm sure that they don't want you to use an extension cord because they don't want you, adding more outlets to it, which is understandable. Another reason that they probably don't want you adding an extension cord is probably because if you have as much power as you do in your house and you get it wet, that could be pretty dangerous. And obviously if you have an extension cord and it sits on the ground and it gets wet, then we may have a hazard situation. So you want to make sure that you probably do follow their guidelines, in terms of that. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn on this this little induction burner. I'm going to go ahead and put it on, right now it's on 1500 watts. It may be hard to see that little LED there, but you can change the watts from 600 to 900 to 1500. I'm going to put it on max. I'm going to put it on sear. Sear is, I think, 600 degrees. High is 425, but it goes all the way up to whatever higher than 560 is. So we're going to max that thing out on sear mode. I got a little pot of water right here, and we'll go ahead and hit start. And then let's just take a look at this right here, and we're going to see how much wattage we're actually pulling from it. Again, it's rated at 1500. I've used this induction burner many times on this particular battery, and I've never seen it really go too much higher than 1250. So although it is saying 1500 watts max, I don't know that it's really pulling that much. And possible it's a peak power 1500, so maybe when you turn it on, it peaks to 1500. But I've never seen it actually go that high. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm just going to go ahead and unplug it actually, because we know the point of using this little display is to see what kind of power we're pulling. So before we plug it into the car, we're also going to test the Weber Lumen grill. This is the compact version. It's rated at 1600 watts. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on full blast right there. And this actually does pull a little higher than 1600 watts. So I've played with this a little bit on my own too. 1600, maybe sometimes 1650. So right there in that 1600 mark. So now we know that we're working with approximately 1200 to 1250 on the induction, and then 1600 watts on the gas grill. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug that now that we know how much power that's pulling. And we'll go ahead and turn the car on. Actually, let's do one more experiment on the cooktop, because we don't necessarily need to have this thing on sear mode at 1500 watts, especially if we're going to be using 1600 watts here. So let's do one more calculation with this, and let's put it on 600 watts. Okay, so that we know that 600 plus the 1600, we're still within 2400 watts. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on a medium heat, 375, hit start. And let's see how much watts that's pulling in real time. So we're at 500, maybe a little more. So and I haven't done this test together with the grill and the induction cooktop, so we're gonna see what happens here when we plug it into the car. But my hypothesis is that we're gonna be perfectly fine running this on full max, and then we're gonna be fine running this at 600 watts on medium heat, because together that's 2100 watts for the between the 500 plus the 1600 watts. So I think this is going to be a perfectly acceptable solution without overloading the system. I guess we'll wait, and I guess we'll go ahead and test that out. And then if we want to get creative at the end, maybe we'll bump this up to 900 watts and just kind of push it. Toyota typically rates all specifications in their vehicles conservatively. So I'm guessing we could probably push it a little bit without having any kind of issues. But maybe we'll blow a fuse, but we'll wait. We'll have to see. Okay, so got rid of the EcoFlow. We've kind of tested it out. We know that we're going to be pulling about 1600 watts off the grill, about 500 watts on this one. So I've got my extension cord plugged into the car. The car's off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on real quick. And then we'll go ahead and get everything kind of plugged in, and we'll see if this works. And let's go ahead and start with the Weber Lumen. I have the inverter turned on currently. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. As you can see, the little blue light right there did turn on. I'm gonna turn it off and then turn it back on. So we are running off the car. Again, it's on high heat right now. This is not pre-warmed or anything like that. But as we just tested with the EcoFlow, it went pretty much to 1600 watts right away. So although there's not a way of monitoring how much power there is, we know that it's about 1600 watts of power currently running off of it. So we're at camp. We want to go ahead and cook something. We are good to go. And then let's say that we want to add an accessory to it. We know we have more power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in my induction cooktop right here. Okay. Now it's on 1500 watts by default when you turn it on. So I went ahead and turned that down to 600. Maybe hard to see, there's a little light there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on medium heat, 375. I'm gonna hit start. And now it's pulling power. So right now, I'm probably using about 500 watts here, 1600 watts here, 2400 watt inverter. Simple math, we have a little bit of room to work with. If we had another accessory plugged into it, like my EcoFlow Glacier fridge, this is going to pull at 180 watts. I put a sticker on it just so I can kind of keep it all straight in my head. And right now this is not pre-cooled at all. So, but I do have it on. And basically right now we're looking at, we're pulling off of, oh, now we know, we killed it. All right, what happened here? Right here, press that on. Oops, crap. We may not be doing that. Cancel that. I think I blew a fuse. All right, well, today is the next day. We killed the system. We're pulling off of, oh, now we know, we killed it. We had it running around 2300 watts. It had the Weber Lumen Compact Grill going at 1600 watts. We had the New Wave induction burner going at a little over 500 watts of power, and then we turned on, and that ran fine. Then we turned on the EcoFlow Glacier fridge, which was running at full power because it's already at the, it wasn't cooled, pre-cooled. So we turned it on, we got it up to right around 2300 watts of power, and when that turned on, the system kind of died. So all in all, we were curious whether we blew a fuse or what happened, but at the end of the day, nothing was working. The car was on, there was no check engine light, there was no error messages on the dashboard. The inverter light in the button was just off. So we checked the fuses, absolutely no issues there. We looked to see if there was another fuse maybe somewhere else in the vehicle, and there is, which is actually above the hybrid battery system. We were like, we're really scared that would have been, if that would have blown, that would have been a big deal, but it wasn't. Well, there's a bulletin in TIS, Toyota Technical Information System, which basically says that on days that it's hot or when it's at high operating temperatures, you need to cool the system as a precaution. So it says to turn on the cool box, which is located right above the inverter physically. And it also says to turn on the air conditioning system to keep the cabin cool. So we waited a couple hours, and the system kind of self-healed. It restored itself back to normal operating temperatures, and it turned back on, and everything worked just normal again. So with all that said, we know that the 2400 watt inverter is pretty true to that. We also know that the inverter, I think yesterday when we were recording, before we edited this together, we weren't sure if it was a pure sine inverter, and we believe that it is not, and we are kind of, although Toyota doesn't say specifically on that, per the owner's manual, it does have a little snippet on that. I think it's on page 513 right here. And basically it's saying measuring devices which may not operate correctly, measuring devices that process precise data, and devices that require an extremely stable power supply. Kind of insinuating that this would not be a pure sine inverter. Again, these types of devices aren't going to have an issue with that kind of precision, maybe more so for sensitive electronics. So with that said, we'll kind of do a little bit of a conclusion on what is the proper way of utilizing your electronics to get rid of your jet boils and your propanes and all your camping supplies that run on different types of gas, and you have to keep extras around and they're limited. We still like the ability to do an all-electric setup. I think that the best way of doing it is to just know your limitations 2400 watts is 2400 watts. If you kill it, you're gonna have to wait several hours for the system to cool itself back down. That's gonna be like running out of fuel if you're, you know, using a gas grill or a propane grill. So to avoid that, just make sure that you're within the tolerances of the maximum wattage that is listed in the specification sheets on all of your devices. And secondly, maybe just throw in an inline power adapter. So this EcoFlow Delta 2 Max is a 2400 watt inverter. What we could do is this has a 2400 watt output, which is the same as the vehicle itself. And we have a 1800 watt charging through AC. So what we could do is we could run all of our devices that we just tested here. And then we could just run those through the EcoFlow. And then we could just run the EcoFlow into the 2400 watt inverter. So then we know that we're at 1800 watts. We're not going to overload the system. And we know that we also can monitor our actual wattage to make sure that we don't exceed that 2400 watts here. And if you want to run two high voltage things like a 1500 watt grill with a 1500 watt induction burner, which would be 3000 total watts, then you could just use one on the car and one on here. But all in all, having this particular battery device as an inline that gives you the pure sine capabilities, the additional ability to have your car off if it was like at nighttime or something like that, and then being able to use that as an inline to maximize the 2400 watts without overloading the system, this is probably the perfect setup in my opinion. All right, before we call this video a wrap, let's try one more thing. My suggestion was to use this for all your devices, then plug in the Delta 2 Max to the car. Again, 1800 watts charging input to this with 2400 watts coming out of it, 2400 watt inverter. We know that we can, in theory, this should be no problem at all. So let's give it a little bit of a test. Right now, I have the Weber Lumen Compact Grill and the New Wave induction burner and my EcoFlow Glacier fridge all plugged into it. The only thing that's actually on right now is the fridge. It's running at approximately 80 watts output as we speak. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the grill on first, and I'm gonna go ahead and just put it on maximum. And now we are up to 1700 watts. So that math adds up, about 1600 watts on the grill, plus the other 100 watts or so coming from the fridge. And what I wanna do is I wanna plug this in to the car. The inverter's on. I have the cool box on per the recommendation in the TIS bulletin. And I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. And let's take a look at the screen here and see what it does. So we're at 87% battery. Approximately the same amount of power input and output. I'm guessing that this is going to climb a little bit more because this should charge at 1800 watts. Again, that's per the spec sheet on the unit. So right now we're actually charging faster than we're pulling output, and that Weber grill's on high, and we have this. This is still off, but we also have our fridge on. So right now that's kind of how that's our current load setup. We know that we're definitely underneath of the 2400 watts capacity of this unit. I do know from experience that if I overload this unit over 2400 watts, then it is going to turn itself off. There's various sections. There's this USB section in the front. There's the AC power section in the back, and it'll just turn off whichever section it needs to. So let's go ahead and load the system up a little bit more, and we'll do that by turning on this. We're going to put it on 600 watts. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put on medium heat, and then we're going to go ahead and hit start, and we're going to watch that go up. So we know we're under the 2400 watts. We do have to be careful because we do know that once that hits 2400, this thing's going to turn itself off. But as of right now, we're really not using any power because the car is running. So I guess we're using a little bit of gasoline. But this system right here is being charged simultaneously, so it's at a neutral, same amount of power going in and output. Fridge is running. We're boiling water right now. That's already hot. And we already have this thing up to 200 degrees, and it's only been on for a minute or so. So I think this is a good setup. We're actually gonna let this just sit here and run for a little while, and then we'll come back in about 20 minutes and make sure that nothing gets too hot and overloaded. We'll just watch this, and if that's gonna be the setup, then I think this is gonna be a new winning setup for me. All right, well guys, I think I found my new setup. I'm gonna be using an EcoFlow Delta 2 Max, and I'm gonna be charging it with my 250 series Land Cruiser, plugging all my devices into this as I can, as long as I don't exceed 2400 watts, and then simultaneously I'll be charging this. And then whenever I need to go over 2400 watts of power, Just gonna unplug this, let everything run off the battery, use this as a separate 2400 watt inverter. So I have two 2400 watt inverters, like two 20 amp outlets in my, fuses in my house. And that's gonna give me plenty of power that I need for my camping trips. If you guys liked the video, thank you so much for watching. Please hit thumbs up, subscribe, and most importantly, if you have any questions or comments, please ask in the comment section below.